BBC News at midday. A report by MPs has found that Boris Johnson committed a serious contempt of Parliament by making misleading statements about lockdown parties in Downing Street. The Privileges Committee, which has a Conservative majority, found that the former Prime Minister misled the Commons on 4 separate occasions, that he didn't tell Parliament about his own knowledge of gatherings where rules had been broken, and that he'd been wrong to say that he'd been repeatedly assured that there hadn't been any breaches. It also criticised him for being disingenuous with the committee in his evidence and said that he was responsible for a serious further contempt when he mounted a vitriolic attack on its members. The committee said that it would have recommended a 90-day suspension from the Commons, which would have opened the way for a by-election in Mr Johnson's constituency. It called for him to be stripped of the pass, which allows him to enter Parliament. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley says the report is damning.
He's a politician who's often defied political gravity, but reading this morning, it's very hard to see how he could make a return to frontline politics. I have been speaking to some of his allies. They are going to argue that the idea of suspending a former Prime Minister for 90 days was vindictive, but this is about as critical as it could have been, and it's very hard to see a way back for him.
Mr Johnson issued a furious response. He accused the committee of pursuing a vendetta. The Conservative MP Brendan Clark-Smith said he was appalled at how Mr Johnson had been treated.
This seems very vindictive, very spiteful, and I would say a complete overreach. Now, 90 days and taking somebody's pass off them is the equivalent of putting somebody in the stocks and touring them around the country. But the crystal ball is there, and they could obviously see into his mind and have decided that he's guilty of whatever it is. No court of law would accept this.
The group COVID-19 Bereaved Families for Justice said Mr Johnson had shown no remorse and had lied when he denied again and again that no rules had been broken in Number 10. Labour's Deputy Leader Angela Rayner said the former Prime Minister lacked humility.
Boris Johnson is not only a lawbreaker but a liar. He's not fit for public office and he's disgraced himself and continues to act like a, pound-shot Trump in the way in which he tries to discredit anybody who criticises his actions.
The Oscar-winning actress and former Labour MP Glenda Jackson has died at the age of 87. She was equally at home on stage, screen and television before turning to politics. Matt Carter looks back at her career.
Glenda Jackson was a mesmerising stage and screen performer whose career took off in the early 1960s. For 10 years she triumphed in a succession of demanding roles. In Peter Brook's production of Marit Sard, in Ken Russell's Women in Love, for which she won an Oscar, in The Music Lovers, and in John Schlesinger's Sunday Bloody Sunday. Then came the BBC's Elizabeth R, a tour de force in which she played the Virgin Queen all the way through from her teens to extreme old age. She won a second Oscar in 1973, playing in a witty comedy, A Touch of Class. Long an active supporter of the Labour Party, she entered Parliament in 1992, notoriously attacking Lady Thatcher immediately after her death, but never made anything like the impact as a politician that she had as an actress.
2 teenagers have been charged with the murder of a 16-year-old boy at a party in Bath. Mikey Roynan died after being stabbed last Saturday. And around 70 aircraft from the RAF, the Royal Navy and the Army will fly over London on Saturday after the annual Trooping of the Colour ceremony. The flypast has been expanded after a similar event for the coronation last month was scaled back because of poor weather. BBC News.